What if retirement isn't the end of your working years, but the unveiling of a season you've been preparing for all along? A season where money reflects your values, your choices are spirit led, and your future is fueled by faith, not fear. In today's episode of Wealth and Wisdom Together, we are reimagining retirement as a sacred opportunity, not a stressful deadline, and we're helping you take confident steps starting right now.
Welcome to Wealth and Wisdom Together, the podcast that guides Christian women to financial fulfillment by walking boldly in your steward identity.
We're your hosts, Willa Williams and Wesley Eccles, founders of Trinity Financial Coaching and Sisters in Faith, here to help you align your money with your vision.
If you're a high achieving woman earning well but still wondering, why don't I feel further along? You aren't the only one who feels that way. And we're here to remind you that your path to wealth is unique and spirit-led.
That's why each episode equips you to manage money confidently, live life purposefully, and build wealth intentionally without compromising what matters most.
Because you're listening or watching, you're already on the path. This podcast is here to help you keep going with faith, clarity, and real-life strategy.
So like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss another episode, any episode at all. We're on this journey together.
Welcome back to another episode of Wealth and Wisdom Together. We're your hosts, Wesley Eccles and Willa Williams, faith-filled financial coaches guiding you to walk boldly in your steward identity. Because making good money doesn't always mean you feel financially confident. And if you're trying to figure it out alone, you don't have to anymore. We're here to guide you, to walk alongside you, to be with you. And today we are talking about today's choices, tomorrow's freedom. We're talking about your retirement reimagined.
When you hear the word retirement, what picture forms in your mind? When I heard the word retirement, I know what picture formed in my mind. It is no more 9 to 5. No more. I can keep saying it over and over because I still feel that way. No more 9 to 5. But
That's real.
But I retired to go from working in corporate to working entrepreneurially for myself, full time. We were doing it part time, but it was time to do it full time then because it was that 9 to 5 was messing the sister up. But when you think about it, is it your picture of a beach? You see yourself on a beach, in a rocking chair, just kind of chilling. Or maybe you haven't really thought about it much at all because it still feels so far away. Trust me, it is not far away. Those years go by very quickly. And just because you retire, most people in 30 years, everyone don't. Some people retire in 10, 20. Don't take that long. It's not that far away.
I feel like I don't have a fair assessment of what retirement feels like from the simple fact that if most of you know that I paused my career so that I could, be home and do all the things that I wanted to do in motherhood. And so even though I paused my career, I worked, but I worked with my own flexibility. I have flexible hours and times. And then even that, with having our own business, there was a level of flexibility that I have. And I love what I do. So even though, like when we first started our financial coaching business, we were actually doing it part-time. I was actually working as the CEO of our church and doing this part-time. And it was until after I became an empty nester that we, amped up the volume on what we were doing with Trinity Financial Coaching so that we could work it full time. But because I love what I do and we love coaching women and helping them on their financial journey and helping them to their journey of financial fulfillment, even as I work now, it doesn't feel like retirement. Although if you were to look at me, you would think I was retired. I'm already a snowbird. You know what I'm saying? So it's totally reimagined. We saw our previous generations work 30 years, 35 years, and then they stopped, and then they retired, and then they took care of the grandkids. Like that's who you call to take care of your grandkids. But even if I look at my mom retired from her corporate, I'll say corporate job.
Mm-hmm.
And when she retired early, relatively early. She was
Mm-hmm.
50,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
50, maybe 55.
Mm-hmm.
She retired early and she stopped that job, then started her own business. So she started her own daycare business because that was something that she always wanted to do. Now, mind you, my girls were young when she retired, and my husband and I were like, "Is she retiring to keep the kids?"
Yeah.
No, she kept everybody else's kids, but she didn't keep my
Mm-hmm.
kids, right? So she retired, started her own business. Then after she started her own business, she worked as a daycare teacher. And then after she did that, then she did something else that she's always wanted to do. And she worked um in a retail clothing at a luxury retail clothing store. And she did that for 15 years. My mother literally just retired
For real this time.
5 years ago. And not because she had to. She
Mm-hmm.
just at that point chose that she wasn't gonna work anymore. Now, mind you, she did have a medical situation, which made her kind of reassess some things and be like, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
Although I enjoy working, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to spend the rest of my time doing some other things that I love. So the point that I'm making is that retirement, at least for me, I was able to see it reimagined. Um, and so I was able to see my mom retire and do all the things that she loved to do, even though it was still bringing her income. And so she didn't have to solely rely on or drain, the monies that she saved. But I just thought it was cool to see that. And then even like you. And so, I don't know if at that point, I don't know if I'll ever retire. My husband said I probably won't ever retire because he loves
No,
what he does.
I don't think that I will ever retire either.
Like retire.
But it depends on your definition of retirement.
Well, that
I
is true.
stopped
That
corporate
is true.
to go into full time property business. And
Right.
then after that, you and I, we started part time with Trinity.
Right.
And now it's full time with Trinity. But I got rid of the property business because
Mm-hmm.
I was tired of that. It was time to retire from that too. So it's like, okay,
Right.
let's move on. Now, the real retirement that I might consider is like, okay, we gonna keep doing Trinity, and then we just gonna chill in between. Hey,
Right.
travel, do the things that you love. You know, uh, just when I think about retirement, I just know that our beliefs about retirement are often rooted in our money story. That inner narrative that we carry since childhood, and is shaped by what we saw,
Yeah, it's true.
what we lacked, and what we were told. You
Mm-hmm.
know?
So yeah, well, I think that I like how you opened when you said when you hear the word retirement, what picture comes to your mind, and even if you thought that it's just still too far away, you might also feel like it's something that's reserved for people who have it all together, right? Those who
Yeah.
make more, who save more, those who don't carry the same type of responsibilities that you do.
Mm.
But let's pause right there because this is why we're talking about reclaiming retirement,
Yeah.
not just as a financial goal, but as a faith led vision that reflects your purpose. Now, remember, in a few episodes ago, we talked about vision over vagueness. And
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about vision in general. What is your general vision? Right now, we're honing in on specifically what does retirement look like in that vision.
Yeah, there are many things that impact your retirement and the way you feel about it, even from when you're young, because your
Mm-hmm.
beliefs about it are rooted in your money story.
Yeah.
That inner narrative you've carried since childhood, shaped by what you saw, what you lacked, what you had,
Mm-hmm.
and what you were told. All
And
those things impacted it.
yeah, truly. And if your parents struggled to make ends meet, retirement might feel like something that's unattainable. Or
Yeah.
maybe they worked up until their last breath, and you silently promised yourself that won't be me. Yeah, we make
Yeah.
those type of vows and to ourselves, and you got to be careful about doing that. But yeah, that we see things, and then we immediately start thinking about how we're gonna do the exact opposite. Or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we hold on to that as truth and we don't stop to try to reframe it. That's why I said I'm glad, I was able to see varying forms of retirement
Mm-hmm.
throughout my childhood. Like when my grandfather retired after working 40 years, and then he was totally retired. He did the thing. He just, hung out with the grandkids, did what he wanted to do. Versus
Love it.
how my mom retired, but she retired, but she was so young that she continued to do the other things that she was passionate about. That
Yeah.
that she just she did what she had to do, but now she was in a season where she could do what she wanted to do. And it was good for me to see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the flip side, if your upbringing included conversations about pensions
Yep.
or 401ks,
Yeah.
you might feel pressured to meet a certain standard and discouraged when you feel behind. You don't want to feel that because,
Yeah.
again, you're a money story. But whatever your past story is, it doesn't have to define your next chapter. You can
Oh,
change that, you can transform.
absolutely, you can. We got our clients to take their early money beliefs and transform them. And most of our clients have a vision and plan for what they consider early retirement, or for whatever or however way they've defined retirement. They see retirement not as an expiration date, but an invitation to build a life that they don't need a break from.
You
How
know,
about
yeah.
that, Miss? Retirement means I don't work a 9 to 5.
Oh, hey, I ain't never gonna change that. So I want to challenge another cultural script.
Okay.
Retirement doesn't have to follow a rigid timeline or look like anyone else's plan. I ain't working another 9 to 5. That's my plan. You get to define what retirement looks like for you through prayer,
Yeah,
discernment, and thoughtful preparation. Prayer, discernment, and thoughtful preparation. You make it your own. Just make it your
yeah.
own.
I know for some of our clients, they look at retirement as a means of getting their time back without financial stress. Think about it.
Mm.
It's the exchange of time for what I want to do. Like you said, I'm not working another 9 to 5. For others, it's creating margin for travel, and you might spend time with your grandkids, like we said, or do some other
Mhm.
things. But the common thread of what we've shared so far is choice,
Yes.
flexibility, and fulfillment. Do you hear that? That's the thread right there. Fulfillment. Life
Yes.
fulfilled, living a life of purpose. It's the three pillars. You've managed your money confidently. You've built wealth intentionally.
Mhm.
So you can live a life fulfilled, a life of purpose, living life purposefully. This is what it's all about. This is why we are so passionate about teaching it this way,
And
or
you know
sharing
what?
it this way. How about that?
You are
Sharing
so right
it.
because the kind of future that you're talking about, flexibility, choice,
Mhm.
fulfillment, it requires intention today. You got to start it working on it today. Because
Yeah.
while retirement may feel distant away, the steps you take now are quietly building the life you'll live later.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
just think of some of the things that we did in preparation for me to be able to retire. And bless the Lord for that. Now,
Yes.
let's define what retirement officially means in today's world. Not mine, but in today's world. It's the time in life when your major source of income shifts from earned wages to employer based retirement benefits, private savings, investments, and maybe even Social Security. Maybe a little part-time job. Is that if that's part of your plan? Some people
Mhm.
want to just, I don't want to just be sitting at home. So they go out and they get them a little part-time job to work because they want to. And
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. Because like your mom, she's still young. She wants to do something, want to get out,
Yeah.
time to travel, do whatever you want, but also time to do a little work.
We have a funny story about my father-in-law. My father-in-law retired from GM, and then he decided that he wanted to work at, like, so I'm dating myself. So back in the day, it was Handy Andy. You remember Handy Andy?
Oh boy, I
So
do.
Handy Andy was like your Lowe's or your Home Depots of today. And he wanted to
Mm-hmm.
work there because he wanted to get discounts on the things that he could do to like do
His
his
project stuff at
projects,
home.
right? So he went in there talking about, yeah, I'm very excited, but I don't want to work weekends. I don't want to work nights and I don't work holidays. I was like, dude, you don't really want to work. You're part-time. You're filling in for the
Mhm.
people who have seniority so that we just laughed. We were like, oh well. But then again, he's another example. He took another full-time job doing something that he loved,
Mhm.
absolutely loved, and then had again a second retirement. So it looks different for everybody. But the studies show that 60% of employees hope to retire in a new city, state, or
Mm.
somewhere warmer. 4 out of 10 workers say they'll keep working after retiring, and you've heard us talk about
Mhm.
our family. And then 3 in 10 people age 65 to 69 are still in the workforce. Now, it doesn't say because they have to or because they want to, but they're still there.
Just because they are. They still
Yeah.
alive, they want something to do sometimes. But here's
Yes.
something that really struck me. 2/3 of workers aged 25 to 34, they aren't saving for retirement through their employer.
Wow.
That gap isn't always from lack of knowledge, it's often about competing priorities, financial obligations, or feeling like retirement is too far off to matter yet. But remember, I told you that time comes by quickly, creeps up on you.
But Willa, that's understandable though. Sometimes working longer makes sense whether you want to qualify for Social Security benefits
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
because you want to become fully vested in your employer's plan. But that nowadays, that isn't always guaranteed.
Not now.
So, but your body, your goals, your industry, they all play a role in this decision. So, you need to build options in advance. Build options in advance.
Yeah.
So, let's walk through a simple scenario. Imagine you're 25, and now the majority of our clients are like in their 30s.
Mhm.
But imagine you're 25 and you're starting to save $200 a month. By the time you're 65, and I know it, oh, 40 years, but that 40 years goes by so quick. It
Sure
don't sound
does.
like it goes by quick, but it does go by quick.
Mhm.
But by the time you're 65, you could have over $1 million thanks to compounding interest. And that's typically if your retirement, wherever, however you have your money invested, is earning between at least 6 to 8%, not 68, but 6 to 8
Oh,
percent a
68.
year. So again, the earlier you save, the earlier you start, the less you have to save.
But let's say if you wait until you're 35,
Okay.
that number jumps up to $500 a month to reach
Yes, it
that
does.
same goal.
Mm-hmm.
At 45, you need to save $1,500 a month.
Yes.
The difference isn't just about time, it's about opportunity. There are opportunity costs that you miss out on
Mm-hmm.
by not starting now.
Yeah.
Now, right now.
Exactly. But here is when we say this: starting later isn't failure. Now, we gave you that scenario, and that's not saying that just because you're starting later, no, it's not failure. It's still forward. Keep
Mhm.
going. It just means that you're going to have to adjust your plan and be even more intentional. And we've seen women make powerful progress even in their 40s and 50s. Again, we got the majority of our clients are in their 30s, but we have some clients that are in their 40s and their 50s as well. But
Mhm.
they get serious, they get support, and they get started.
Mm. Mm. Hey, can we pause for a moment? If you've been listening and thinking, I want to be more intentional with my money, but I'm not sure what my next step should be, we've created something just for you.
It's called Your First Step to Financial Fulfillment. And it's a free guided audio experience to help you align your money and mindset with clarity and confidence before you ever book a coaching session.
Inside, we walk you through powerful shifts, faith-led reflections, and the exact steps we guide our clients through when they're just starting out.
You'll walk away with a clear picture of what's holding you back, where God may be leading you next, and how to finally take that next step without pressure, fear, or overwhelm.
This is the same clarity focus tool we use inside our coaching program, and now we're giving it to you for free.
Tap the link in the show notes or visit www.mytfcoach.com/fulfillment starts here to get instant access, or click the link in our show notes.
Your financial journey deserves clarity, not confusion. One of the questions that I experience a lot is, should I borrow from my 401k or from my IRA to pay off debt or cover a large expense? Now, the answer, it's not just black and white. For example, if you're dealing with student loans, it might feel like you're finally breaking free, but remember, you're borrowing from your future self. The interest might be lower, but you're interrupting long-term growth. We spoke earlier about compound interest. We've heard clients say, I'd rather pay myself back than pay interest to a lender. And while that logic, it might make sense, it can also delay financial independence. One thing that I've also heard a lot of people experience is that they don't always pay themselves back. So you don't want to get started with that. Now, if you're trying to address college tuition, if you're paying for your child's education, the heart behind that decision, it's beautiful, it's touching. But consider if it might be wiser to find scholarships or grants or student loans while preserving your retirement savings that don't have any do-overs. Once you take it out, not guaranteed to go back. And what if you wanted to start a business? Launching that dream is exciting, but businesses carry risk. If the business fail, you may not only lose that startup funds, but also face penalties for early withdrawal. Explore other funding routes before tapping into your retirement. Again, the answer to that question is not black and white.
It's not
different.
black and white. And let me just put a pin here. You cannot borrow from your IRA. Again, these are questions that were asked. Can I borrow from my 401k, my IRA? People don't know. So they ask the question. So just to be clear, you cannot borrow from your IRA. But like Willa said, yeah, it's not black and white. And I think one of the key things to remember is, although you in the instance of the 401k, you can pay yourself back, but you're gonna lose on the front end. Like, you're gonna lose on any gains from the market while that money is not in there. And in some instances, if you are no longer with that employer, then you can't contribute anymore. And so, when you think about it, like, you can't replace it.
Yeah.
Whereas all the other areas, you can find monies from other places in order to take care of that. I would not recommend your retirement to be the first line to think about when it comes to that. But again, there's no shame in asking these questions. There's no even shame in thinking about that. At the end of the day, you want to do the right thing. And the point that I'm trying to make is, the key is consider the long-term cost, not just the short-term relief.
Wow.
So, you really want to think about it. You really want to get some advisors in to walk with you, tax advisors, your CPA, just to make sure that you are making the best decision if you're going to start touching your retirement funds to do other stuff.
Yeah. So let's talk about where you can find money for retirement, even when it feels tight.
Yeah.
First, you can look at your current spending habits. Could reallocating even maybe $50 a month make a difference? Think about that. If you receive a raise or a tax refund, consider directing part of it to a retirement account, a little bit at a time. Prioritize employer matches. Don't leave money on the table.
Absolutely.
That's extremely important.
Meaning, be contributing at least up to the match.
Yes.
At a minimum. That's just the at a minimum. Because if we talk about the 2025 limits, you can put up to $23,500 if you're under 50 in your 401k, 31,000 if you're over 50. And in a Roth or a traditional IRA, you can do a $7,000 max contribution. So you have varying ways where you can start really funding. And so, like what Willis said, take that extra money from the tax refund, drop that in a Roth IRA.
Yeah.
The $50 difference, that could be as simple as increasing your contribution 1 or 2%. You could little each year commit to increasing your contribution by another percentage point. You don't have to go from 1 to 10, but each year you increase it another percentage point until you are maxing out that 401k.
Take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
The earlier and more consistently you contribute, the more room you give your money to grow and to support your future retirement.
Mhm.
That is critical. Before we dive into next steps, let's help you answer a question many women ask, and that is, how much will I actually need to retire? Oh boy. The answer starts with your vision, not just your numbers. What do you want to do when you retire? You got to know
Yeah.
your vision.
Yeah. What are some of the big things you want to experience in retirement?
Hmm.
Is travel a part of it? Whether that's to explore new destinations internationally or just travel domestically just to visit family on a regular basis. Do you want to have a second property? Maybe a cozy cabin or a lakefront home or someplace warm and sunny in Florida or in Phoenix? Maybe you want to launch a business like my
Oh
mom
boy.
did, or try a completely new career path. Maybe there's
Hmm.
something that you've always wanted to do, and now you want to jump off into that and totally change your career path, or make space for hobbies like golf, tennis,
Time on the
time on a
boat.
boat.
I want to be on a boat. Forget the boat, the beach. I want to be on the beach.
Maybe you want to give back through volunteering. There are people who
Mm.
like to do what is called voluntourism, where they travel to these different places so they can volunteer, and see the world, but they're also giving back. But it costs money to do that, so maybe that's something you want to do. Or I don't know, maybe you just want to lay back and be able to host your grandkids. You want the grandkids to come all summer long and free up your children and spend time with them so they can have time to themselves. Or it just could be the fact that, like Willis said, I don't want a 9 to 5. I just want to simply savor a slower pace, a slower morning, where the whole day is just up to me to decide and be spontaneous and do whatever I want to do.
I love that. All of those things that you just said, they all matter
They do.
because you're not guessing what your vision is. You are preparing for your retirement with intention. You know what
Yes.
you want to do, you know where you want to go, and that's going to drive the answer to that question. How
Yeah,
much
it
do I
is.
need for my retirement?
A common guideline, though, is to aim for about 70% of your pre-retirement income. So basically,
Mhm.
if you are earning $100,000 at the point of retirement, or then you want to make sure that your income that you get in retirement is at least $70,000, right? Don't shortchange your future self with unrealistic expectations. If
Yeah.
you enjoy your lifestyle now, you'll want to sustain it later. So here's the thing. People, you're not going to retire from a lifestyle that includes some of the things that I mentioned and add to it. But then you say, no, I'm only going to, retire. I only need 50% of my income to retire. And you're going to live off of rice and beans. That's not realistic. You're not going to do that.
Not
You know
gonna
what
be
I'm saying?
happy.
You're not going to do that. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to do that. So again, if you enjoy your lifestyle now, you want to sustain it later. And you're going to have some adjustments. Yes, but you don't have to like sacrifice, right? So be realistic on what that looks like. Um, why is it lower? It's lower because by the time you retire, your debt should be considerably lower. You shouldn't
Mhm.
have a payment on your home. Um, your car should be paid off. Like all of
Mhm.
those things matter. And so because you don't have that anymore, you won't need as much income in retirement than you would now. And that's why the initial 30% is shaved off of there. Okay. So again, if you want to look at about 70% of your pre-retirement income as your starting point.
That's good, but one thing that I want people to always never forget is about healthcare.
That's true.
Don't forget about your healthcare because it's
Yeah,
one of the biggest expenses in retirement.
it is.
So, we usually recommend our clients to use the retirement calculators to guide your projections. One we like is the Asset Retirement Calculator. Check it out in the show notes for the
Yes.
link.
Yes. Yes, yes.
So let's talk strategy.
Oh, real quick. And the reason why I like that one, why we like that one, is
Mm-hmm.
because it asks for more information
Mm-hmm.
to give you the most accurate estimate as far
Mm-hmm.
as the scenarios. It asks you about how much are you contributing, how much are you saving, what do you have already saved, where do you live, where do you plan on living, because all of that factors
Matters.
into right, that estimate. Your social security, so like, you can go to social security uh .gov or ssa.gov, and you can get your estimated social security, and it takes all of that into consideration when it spits out and lets you know, okay, yes, either you are on track to meeting the income goal that you need for retirement, or what adjustments you need to make in order
Mm-hmm.
to meet it. So if you aren't meeting it, what adjustments you need to make. If you are meeting it, then it says, hey, you're doing well. You got more than enough. You will have more than enough by the time you retire. So again, we're not promoting it or anything. That's just a calculator that we like to use in our coaching program for those reasons, to help our clients kind of just get a visual of where they
Yeah.
are on track with their retirement planning.
So now let's talk strategy. First, reflect on your retirement vision. We talked about it. What you want to do, where you want to go, what do you want to do? Not what you think you should want, but what you actually want. We tell people to dream.
Hmm.
Just dream. What does a meaningful, joyful retirement look like for you? Who do you want to serve? What do you want to experience?
Mm.
Goodness.
Yeah, just sit in that for a second. And I know it seems like it's so far away, but it's not. It'll be staring at you
Mm-hmm.
in any moment.
Mm-hmm.
But there are choices that you're going to make today that's going to
Yeah,
affect that. And that's
that's
why we
right.
have you talk about it and envision it and think about it now. Okay. Then take these next steps. Start saving anything.
Yeah.
Just start saving.
Just start.
Again, even if it's $50 a month, start making a difference and put that to retirement long term. You're not going to touch it. You're going to set it and forget it. You're just going to start
Mm-hmm.
putting money there so that it can grow, so that the compounding interest will work in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
Then we want you to review your employer benefits, maximize any matching contribution. So at a minimum, you should be at the match, and then increase 1% annually as you are working until you are fully funding or you're at the max contribution. Open a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA, because even small deposits now can grow significantly over time. It doesn't take a lot of money to open either one of those. And that's something that is outside of what you're doing at your employer. There are differences between the traditional IRA and a Roth IRA.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
traditional IRA grows tax deferred, which means that you would have to pay taxes on the income
Later. Mm-hmm.
later. A Roth IRA grows tax free, but you're putting
Mm-hmm.
in after tax dollars. But again, the requirements, the criteria, all of that are difference between the two. We could talk about that more in conversation directly if you want more answers for that.
Mm-hmm.
You could track and diversify. Track and diversify. Learn the basics of investment types. Spread your risk. Learn the fundamentals of investing. Understand what asset allocation means so that you're spreading your risk. Right now, what this market is doing, yeah,
Yeah.
your how you diversify changes with how close you are to retirement. You want to be able to look at that. And then at the other thing you can do, like I mentioned, you can schedule a focus strategy session with us. If you want to do that, this is what we sit down together, and we can tailor a plan that reflects your values and your visions. And we could talk about that. So you could have a 2.5 hour focus strategy session with us, where the focus of that strategy or the focus of that session is how can I optimize the money that I have now so that I'm prepared for retirement. We'll have a link in the show notes if that's something that you want to do. But we help our clients do this every day, help them understand and see their picture wholly so that they can make the right decisions for themselves. And that's, as your coach, that's what we're here for. That's what we're here to help you do.
Yes. And what does the Bible say about retirement readiness?
What the Bible says something about retirement, Willa Jean.
The Bible says something about everything. That's why in every one of our episodes, we
Yeah.
talk about passages for you to put into your vault
Mm-hmm.
and that support the
Yes.
message of our episode. So
Yes.
this time it's Numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the Old Testament, y'all. Numbers 8:23 to 26. And it shows us that even in that scripture, in that passage, there are seasons for active work and seasons for transition.
Yeah.
Active work at corporate, transition, retirement. The Levites retired. They retired from their duties at 50, not to disengage, but to assist in new ways. They did new things.
Yes, they
New
did.
things.
Yeah, it says the Lord said to Moses, this applies to the Levites. Men 25 years old or more shall come take part in the work at the tent of
Mm-hmm.
meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But at the age of 50, they must retire from their regular service and work no longer. They may assist their brothers in performing their duties at the tent of meeting, but they themselves must not do the work. This
Mm-hmm.
then is how you are to assign the responsibilities of the Levites. So God has given us an example in his
Always.
word. God has given us an example in his word. He's
Oh,
like, look, you can't do this like
yes.
oh, the rest of your life.
Right.
As primary.
You're going to assist in other ways. You're not just going to go retire and sit down.
Yeah.
It's other stuff to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's why retirement can be a deeply spiritual pivot point for
Mm-hmm.
many. A chance to invest your time, your gifts, and wisdom into the next generation with margin and freedom. And
Mm.
that stewardship too.
So this week, I want you to reflect on this prompt. Think about, what kind of life do I
Mm.
want to step into when I no longer need to work for income? What
Ooh.
kind of life do you want to step into when you no longer need to work for income?
Write that down. Sit with it in prayer. Ask God to give you a vision for that season and the courage to start building it.
Mhm. Remember, you don't have to figure out your retirement plan alone. If you're ready to align your money with your vision, even if you starting later than you've hoped, there is still a path forward.
You can book your focus strategy session today, like I mentioned earlier, and we can talk through your goals, your timeline, and a personalized plan that reflects your faith, your future, and your freedom.
Because your retirement shouldn't feel like a question mark, like you don't
Mm-mm.
know what's going on. It should feel like a promise you're preparing to fulfill with wisdom, vision, and joy.
And remember, if you aren't ready to have a focus strategy session and you want to take your next step towards financial fulfillment, you can access it, the link in our show notes, and you'll be able to walk through powerful shifts, faith led reflection, and the exact steps that we guide our clients through when they're just getting started. So if you're just getting started and you want to take your first step, that you could do that way. But if you know, hey, no, I'm ready to talk to a coach. I want someone to help me with this now. Then we encourage you to schedule a financial focus strategy session.
Planning for retirement is done now.
Yes.
Retiring and enjoy is for later.
Absolutely. Whether you book a focus strategy session or you take your first step to financial fulfillment, our end goal for you is to activate the power of your steward identity and discover your unique path to financial fulfillment. Trusting God, trusting yourself, and trusting the process. So don't forget to subscribe. We would love for you to leave a review. Share this episode with your friends and family. So bye for now and continue to tap into wealth and wisdom together.
Bye bye.